I've used it many different ways. And if you wanted to make it, now here was your question. I know you posed a little thing to me going, are we going to make a cheesecake and all this? I was like, well, that's not quite the focus of this class, but to give you a little hint, one of the things that helps to get that texture is the cashews with the lemon. And so blending it, instead of adding something spicy, like we add all these spices, we add something sweet, like agave nectar or something like that. And you take that creamy base, right? You add a little agave to it and a little bit of the lemon, you can make a lemon cheesecake. And you can switch it out with if you do like half and half of mac nut with the cashew, it makes a real creamy, like cheesecake. If you like cheesecake, it gives it that kind of taste and texture. So, huh? It would thicken it. Yeah. Now you would add also, in addition to that, you'd add a little coconut, like a little coconut oil, because it would help it to stand up. So right now, see how it's kind of thick, you know, like runny? The coconut oil or coconut meat. I'm going to show you, let me show you something real quick.
I used to worry about my weight eating 3 slices of cheesecake.
A day or an hour or a week?
No.
An hour?
No.
Do I have to worry about my weight eating 3 cheesecake slices a minute?
I mean, I'm in love with the stuff. Sometimes, I mean,
I'll tell you, here's how it goes,
others,
okay? Here's the secret, like one of the secrets to keeping your weight, all right? One is, if you're going to do high fat, you got to do very low carb. Okay, have you noticed like the diets that people go on, like Atkins for instance, very high fat, very low carb, right? If you're going to do really high carb, like for instance McDougal or fruitarian stuff, you know, all those kind of things, they have to do very low fat. When you combine the high fat with the high carb, that's when you get problems. Because what happens is it stimulates an overgrowth of the yeast called candida. You heard of candida? Mm-hmm. I have like hours and hours of lecture on candida that I've done because it's such a, wow, you know, it just takes over. But so if you stagger your meals throughout the day, for instance, you know, in the morning, you know, we're doing like kind of a higher carb thing. If you're going to eat a lot of fruit or high carb stuff, you need to go do something. You know, you need to be active, right?
What would be high carb?
High carb would be anything with a lot of fruit in it. We're talking about mostly like raw foods. Like if you're doing a lot of heavy fruit stuff.
Like the smoothie would be a high carb?
Well, the thing about the smoothie that's good, the reason why the greens are really good is because they help to slow down the absorption of the sugar. So even though it's higher carb than, let's say, you know, the nut cheese or, you know, something like that, it's because there's so much fiber, it slows down your blood sugar getting that hit. So anytime you do simple carbohydrates, breads, pastas, you know, all that kind of stuff, your blood sugar takes a big rise. It starts, you know, skyrockets. And then your pancreas has to go work overtime pumping out insulin to try to deal with all the excess sugar. And the next thing you know, you end up wearing out your pancreas, which is what leads to diabetes and on, cancer, because pancreas does so many things, you know. I mean, it helps with all your enzyme production, you know, or like a lot of your digestive enzymes. Helps with your insulin production, so it's like a very important organ to take care of. You know, I mean, people who get pancreatitis or pancreatic cancer, they usually don't have a very high survival rate. So whatever we can do to help protect the pancreas is really good. And by combining more fiber with the sweet stuff, that helps to slow that down. The chia helps to slow down the absorption of the sugar. So that's one of the reasons why I've seen these people get, I call it blissed out or whatever, but they're on these high fruitarian diets, you know, and then they come to me later and they're like, all my teeth are falling out, all this, you know, my hair is brittle, all these things are happening. And this sugar, it's like, these fruits that we have these days are kind of more hybridized, you know, and so, you know, you can find, the fruits that are probably closest to their natural form would be the berries, you know. Now, as I'm transitioning people into a healthier diet, it's hard to get them straight on just eating the whole food because they're so used to like all the fun flavors and all that kind of thing. But the more we can go towards a simpler diet, it's actually better. I mean, for your digestion, the more mono meals you can do, you know, which would be like where you don't have a lot of extensive combinations. But, you know, we are creatures of habit as well as, you know, we want to have fun and excitement. And so food has become more than just for nutrition these days. You know, it's also like an activity. You know, think about it. You go out to dinner, it's like an activity. It's like a fun thing, right? So it's associated with holidays, and so there's all this emotional stuff on top of it. So if I just told people tomorrow, okay, yes, you need to be really healthy, so all I want you to do is just eat everything in its whole, complete form, you know what? I would have nobody ever come into the class, right? It's just, they're not, people, you know, we're just not ready for it, unfortunately. It's like, it's hard. But as you start incorporating more fresh fruits and vegetables, just in whatever form you can get them in, your taste buds do change. And little by little, you can use less and less stimulating kind of stuff because you don't need it as much. But when you're going from McDonald's or fast food or, you know, or even just a lot of the, you know, the traditional cooked food type recipes, they're very dense in sugar, fat, and salt. So if you try to go from that kind of diet to a clean, you know, 100% raw food diet, one, you're going to have a detox from hell. And two, you know, maybe emotionally you're not ready for that. Sometimes it helps to kind of transition along. So that's why I try to teach people like ways that are kind of in the middle, you know. I mean, it's actually way beyond the middle because we're doing mostly green stuff. But, you know, a lot of teachers, when I first got trained, they were teaching very heavy nut pâtés and heavy nut this and that. I use nuts, but I use them kind of sparingly, more for sauces and dressings and stuff, and then you can put them on top of things. Because I think it's a lot of work to digest all those heavy proteins and heavy fats and stuff like that. So I like to keep it lighter. But still keep flavor, you know. Because a lot of people, they go, oh, I'm going to go eat all these healthy foods, and then they are not satisfied because it's not flavorful to them, because their brains are so, you know, programmed a certain way. If anybody wants any more nacho cheese, you can have another scoop. We're going to use some on the fajitas a little bit. So, anyway, I wanted to talk to you about coconut. Why was I talking about coconut? Oh, cheesecake. I was like, how does coconut have to do with nachos? Anyway, yeah, so you can use coconut meat, like, and this is actually the young, like the coconut meat, they took it out of the coconuts and then they dried it and they pressed it in here, so you don't have to go chase around a coconut with a machete and try to open them and get the stuff out. And it's actually really tasty. If anyone wants to try a little bit, you know, you can put some on your plate, or I'll put some on, because we're gonna, do I use this? I use this in a recipe later, and it's kind of more of a icing, you know, so it makes sort of a nice icing. But if you want to pass this around to scoop a little on your tray just to try it.
Where do you get it?
You can actually get it at Whole Foods. They now sell it. They have it at the co-op. You could get it online, you know.
Is it in what
Amazon.
section? Is it up to same?
They have it, I think it's kind of flavored. So that's just the whole coconut meat that's been dried in there. Okay, so what's our next